Wendy. Wendy Schmidt is also helping improve the lives of children and families throughout the world. That's the transition to my introduction to you, okay? The first time I met Wendy was at an outdoor cafe on the island of Nantucket. It was cloudy and threatening to rain, and a good friend of mine was insisting that I join him to meet, in his own words, a real, true angel. Yeah. Someone who he said was going to inspire me and maybe even change my life. So I thought to myself, first of all, I don't think I believe in angels, and second of all, I wasn't looking to change my life because, as Randy Newman sings and makes fun of us all for being unaware of the world we often live in, I felt like I don't need to change because, as Randy Newman sings, my life is good. And little do we know. As Wendy walked in, I noticed the sky brightened a bit, and I thought maybe that was a coincidence. As she made her way to our table, people in the cafe stood up and stopped her. Some shook her hand with smiles, gratitude and joy. Others hugged her and thanked her for all she was doing for the island, and especially for the year-round residents who lived there. As she approached our table, it began to drizzle, but not on us. And I thought, okay. I said to myself, maybe another coincidence, but I'm opening now. We sat down. I noticed that she didn't rush to make conversation. She took a little breath that seemed more like a sigh. And then she sat there with a look on her face that suggested that she was definitely more at peace than I was. And that was despite the overwhelmingly heavy workload, which I quickly learned included things such as, on Nantucket, developing the local transit system, bringing renewable energy in the form of windmills to the high school, saving the island's finest bookstore from the landlords who thought that the island needed yet another jewelry store, and supporting almost all the cultural institutions on the island. If something wonderful was broken or in danger of going out of business, Wendy was coming to its rescue. As I came to know Wendy better, I began to realize that everywhere that there was a problem, there was Wendy fixing it. And not just with a check, but with a plan that preserved the people's dignity and contributed to the evolution of a more viable economy on the island. It was really Wendy here, Wendy there, Wendy everywhere. And I noticed that she actually isn't even sitting in her seat now. I was walking, talking to her, and she was gone. Probably off to fix a problem somewhere. But I began to see why people called her an angel. And as I listened to her talk about her hopes and dreams, I realized that she wasn't only trying to save the island of Nantucket, but rather she was trying to save the world. When I think of how much Wendy is doing, it's truly humbling to me. At any given moment of the day, Wendy is doing the following. As president of the Schmidt Family Foundation, she is working to advance the wiser use of energy and natural resources in a world transitioning into a new century with a more sophisticated understanding of the interconnections of living systems. I don't know about you, but I'm not doing that with my days, and nor am I working to provide urgently important information and connections for other organizations looking to promote a more responsible relationship to the world's water, energy, and food resources as the founder of the 11th Hour Project. Nor am I on a mission to protect and cherish the waters we use for recreation by persuading the world's boating industry to agree to employ the most energy efficient and low waste systems aboard all marine vessels. And in her spare time, Wendy is also the founder of Climate Central, a nonprofit science and communications organization headquartered at Princeton University, which seeks to combine sound science about climate change with vibrant and accessible visual tools for use by the media. Okay, so when I was reading that about her, I thought, I don't even know for sure what that means, but I'm so glad that she's doing that, because I know this has to be good for us. And then I realized she's doing so many good things for all of us that I should begin to open to this idea that she's an angel. There's more that she does, actually a lot more that we won't go into, but there are boards she sits on and environmental awards she sponsors. But I asked myself the question, when does a person become an inspiration? When does the example of someone's life make it clear that you are simply not doing enough to make the world a better place yourself? When does a woman become an angel? Wendy is a bright, shining example of all those things and more. Wendy is doing the greatest thing a person can do. She is actually trying to make the world better for other people. When I think about what Wendy is doing, I remember this old saying that we used to say in Chicago, where I'm from. The saying is, dare to be the kind of person who, when you wake up in the morning, even the devil himself says about you, uh-oh, she's awake. Wendy Schmidt is that kind of person. And she didn't have to do any of this. She could have lived in an ivory tower and never come down. She didn't have to put herself out there. She didn't have to think about the well-being of others more than she thought about herself. She didn't have to fall in love with the sea or with the island of Nantucket, but she did. And her love of one place helped her fall in love with all the places and all the people. Wendy Schmidt, woman, wife, mother, friend, teacher, philanthropist, sailor, adventurer, and determined seeker of the truth, has transcended all those labels and has become more than an angel. She has become a gentle warrior on her own urgent journey to making the world a better place. Wendy, in case you didn't know it already, I'm honored to be your friend. And I love that whenever I am with you, I always feel like I'm accomplishing so little. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present the Global Green Community Environmental Leadership Award to the very lovely and deserving Wendy Schmidt.
Got to write my obituary when I go. Thank you, Army. I accept this award, of course, on behalf of our foundation and the 11th Hour Project, our new 11th Hour racing team, ReMain Nantucket, and all of our grantees who do such amazing work that make our work possible. You really can't imagine what it is like for me to be standing here tonight. I grew up I was told to be seen and not heard. That was the way it was in the 1960s if you were a little Catholic child growing up in New Jersey. My curiosity, my ambition, my tendency to challenge things was pretty actively discouraged. And it really just was the culture of the time. It wasn't my family, it was the culture. Perhaps you've watched Mad Men. And while I remember my father telling me, he was a bit of an outlier himself, telling me you could do whatever you want to do, I also remembered the prevailing wisdom that told me why things would never work and why things could not be done and why they were just the way they were. And that was all really true until the hippies came along. And about that time, I remember the nuns' habits all coming off and people's parents all getting divorced and children starting to call their parents by their first names, which was really weird. But I'm not here because of the hippies, although they did open the conversation that I think we are still having here today, which has to do with changing our consciousness about the world we share. I'm really here for two reasons. One of them is that I'm just extremely lucky to have the resources of our foundation and to be able to invest in organizations and projects whose work really matters for our planet. Second, as someone who I think just thinks outside the box, I finally found my people. I really found my people. They're in California. They're here at Global Green for sure. They're in Nantucket, they're in New York, they're in the Netherlands. These are folks who spend their time asking me these questions. Why don't you? And why not? And why couldn't we? And what if we could? It's an entirely different conversation than I ever had growing up. And by the way, these are the very questions that all of us need to be asking ourselves every day if we really think we're going to change the world. Because there's a 150-year-old industrial infrastructure out there that governs our energy and natural resource management. And it's not going away. Those vested interests are not going away without dire necessity, incredible public pressure, or a very public fight. We know the system's on a path to not a good ending. We saw that story in Avatar. And we haven't got the 2.2 planets we need to accommodate a world of 6 billion people who want to consume the way Americans do today. Don't have it. We also don't have the 4 to 5 planets that we need if projections are accurate by the century's end. We know that there is a better way that mimics nature's own economy, that provides abundance and a system of continual regeneration. This movement we're all part of today, that we're all here with Global Green about, is nothing less than a call for a second industrial revolution. Yes? We've got nature's own power plant. It's nuclear, 93 million miles away from us, which is a good place to be if there's a problem. It showers us every day with abundant, free, clean energy. And all we need to do is to figure out how to harness it, how to store it, to mimic the natural system of photosynthesis. And it's already happening in the labs. I know that we won't change the world entirely in our lifetimes. I understand that, but we can set our course. I like to think of all of us as a sailing team. A sailboat is always trying to move forward. Sailboats do not sail backwards unless you make them. You sail either to the course or you sail off the course. And winning sailboats are always adjusting to changing conditions, making progress on the compass 1 degree at a time. So I say to us, let's set our course and let's adjust. At the 11th Hour Project, our work is to change the public conversation about our use of energy and resources, and to focus attention on the interconnectedness between living systems. Every time you use a cell phone, or your laptop, or you watch a movie on satellite television, you are directly experiencing a connection. And people like this. They value it. And by the way, it is nature's own model. And we're just beginning to figure this out. So when you see an ad on television, as I did the other day from Procter & Gamble, that tells me there's a new detergent and there's 40% less packaging, I've got to believe that that marketing is targeted toward people who actually care about that. So to me, that's mainstream. That's huge. With all that else is going on in the world, this is one of those positive shifts. On the other hand, also, the world is becoming more transparent. And I see that as a great reason for optimism. So in accepting this honor, I really want to recognize my team at the 11th Hour Project for their constant inspiration to me, for their commitment to our mission. It's very creative, and they do it every day. I want to thank my husband, Eric, who's here tonight with me. You've always encouraged my work, and I think you've shown me by your example how to be a leader. So thank you. So finally, I can't help but stand here on this stage without bringing to mind the first time that I was on stage. I was 5 years old. I was in kindergarten at a Catholic school, And we were going to come up and go on stage as a class, there must have been 26 of us, as the letters of the alphabet. And there were nuns and parents and the whole big thing. I don't remember what the event was, but we had to stand in a stairwell, come through a door, go up a stage, and spread ourselves out and then go through the letters of the alphabet. Well, I was letter S, which is really interesting because my name is Schmidt now. And I was in line, and there was a little boy behind me. He was letter T. His name was John Sullivan. You're not here, are you? Good. Okay, we're good. Because John Sullivan, when we went through the door, really wanted to get in front of me. And he pushed me, and he shoved me aside, and he got in front of me, and we got up on the stage, and I was sort of barging with him as we got up there, because I knew he wasn't supposed to be in front of me. But there he was, and there we were. We had our letters on, and we read the alphabet through, you know, NOPQRTSUV, and so on. Well, I never heard the end of that. No one believed my version of the story. My mother thought it was funny. She thought I was confused. And for years and years after that, being cast as Little Mary Mix-Up for the kindergarten lineup completely overshadowed my sense that I could get things right and know it. So here I am, 50 years later, on another stage under very different circumstances. No one's pushing me aside to get in front of me, for one thing, which is great. And I'm not a little girl, and I'm not confused, and I wasn't confused then either. And luckily, the world has changed. We now expect children and everyone else to be seen and heard. You can't even shut people up sometime. So thank you so much for your attention. Thank you, Global Green, for this great honor. And let's keep supporting the great work that you do. Thank you, everyone.